All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And greetings all. It is a pleasure, folks. Please be seated. I'm humbled and overwhelmed by that reception. Albert is with us.
Albert, thank you.
That is the guy who looks like he's dressed for Ocean's 11. That is the kind of, you look like you're dressed for a caper. You know, you got all the black on. It's good. I like it. It's a very hip. Black is always hip and sexy, Albert. Well done. Yes, we coincide this day with the opening of the Olympics. We have Olympics news. We have the dark underbelly of the Olympics, in addition to the bright, patriotic part of the Olympics. So all that is working. And first into the Super Sticker sweepstakes, William DeMichele, big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you for a 10 spot. We are a crowd-funded show, so I make a big deal out of those in the crowd who fund. You know, that's just part of the game. So thank you, William.
Big shout out.
Appreciate that, sir. And Kim is sick today. She's got the COVID.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, she's not feeling well. I do think that her experience with COVID will pass quickly, but it has not passed quite yet. So she is not with us today. She's monitoring the show, contributing to the show, but she can't speak. Her voice is pretty thrashed. So we counseled her to kick it until she gets the famous McAllister immune system in full gear, and that will return her to 100% strength. I just mentioned William DeMichele. Thank you. Is that the kind of contribution she's going to make, Albert, where she repeats crap that we've just done? Is that what's going to, I mean, I don't.
I blame you.
Well, you can blame me, Kim, but the fact is we already did that, and I'm just saying let's get with the program. I understand that you're trying to make a contribution, Kim, from the behind the curtain. This is kind of cool because I can take shots at Kim without her actually being able to take a shot back. So it's pretty great.
There's never been anything like this.
Yes. Oh, I have a big chunk of Trump coming up in this half hour. Also, Friday Fabulous Florida, bottom of the hour. Albert has curated it. How do you feel about it today, sir?
It's pretty good. It's not the best, but we'll see. A lot of times they say it's not that great, and a lot of people like it. So
yeah, that is true. Okay. Michael Shure will be here. It has been an eventful week in politics. We'll talk about that. I will speak to the fact that Kamala Harris is getting on adversarial footing with Donald Trump and comfortable there. We'll talk about that. And I want to start with a little bit of Olympics news. Just because the Olympics opening ceremony is starting, and I sort of feel like
the Mark Thompson Show.
I have to give you the other side of the Olympics. People count on me for that. You know, it's not all sweetness and light all the time. But we'll give you the sweetness and light, too. There certainly is sweetness and light. But let's start with what, I don't know if you want to call this a terrorist attack, but it certainly has created upheaval and disruption in the host city of Paris. Here is what happened this morning, actually in the overnight hours in Paris, France. Go ahead, Albert.
We do understand that coordinated malicious acts have been targeted at various TGV lines, the fast train lines in France. This is according to the French transport minister. We've got live pictures, I think, coming through of Gare de Montparnasse. So lots of those trying to get around France, either getting away from Paris if they're not keen on the Olympics, or maybe other parts of France. In the run-up to the Olympic Games, that could be difficult. We're seeing as many as, I think it was 800,000 people being affected by this.
As reported by AFP, that number.
Yeah, so that's 800,000 people affected by essentially the speedy trains that they have in France. It's a really great system, but it is completely halted as a result of that. Again, I don't know what you want to call it. What did they call it? They called it, they didn't call it terrorism, but...
I was seeing reports that it was
anyway,
arson.
all major Paris stations. Yeah. Oh, arson. Okay. Yeah, it was fire.
Oh, yeah, they're saying arson.
Around 300,000 fans are expected to attend the opening ceremony along the Seine. The flag bearers for Team USA, anybody? LeBron James and Coco Gauff. The Olympic torch has been making its final approach to the cauldron today, with rapper Snoop Dogg being among those carrying it, as you know. The opening ceremony happening as French authorities again are investigating the arson attacks on the country's railway system that caused all of that disturbance, and they are working on that. Yeah, vandalism, arson, those words are probably more appropriate. There is Snoop. How about the Snoop man? Wow. What a trajectory that life has had. Where are my weed
smokers at?
It'd be great if he took a toke off the bottom of that.
That'd be really cool.
Of the torch.
Isn't anybody but a weed?
Yeah. I was in Munich for the 72 Olympics as Trevor Starr. Wow, that's unreal. Very impressive. Good brag. Looks like Snoop carrying a giant blunt. Yeah, it does have that look. Says Nick. All right, I also wanted to tell you about this story involving this equestrian champion, Charlotte Dujardin. She is shown repeatedly whipping her horse on video. She's a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. She's from Britain. And this video was published in multiple media outlets. And it's part of an official complaint filed against her with the International Federation of Equestrian Sports. It shows her repeatedly striking the horse, walking closer and swinging the whip again. She was set to compete in the Paris Games, as I say. She was a favorite to be on the medal stand, but withdrew after word of the video emerged. She said in a statement that the video is from 4 years ago, and it shows me making an error of judgment during a coaching session. It was completely out of character, and I am deeply ashamed. Completely out of character? Really? You go after the horse that way? I don't know. I'm just saying, doesn't sound completely out of character. She has been, however, provisionally suspended from all events under the jurisdiction of the governing body in equestrian sports. She's 39 years old. She did, as I say, win gold at the 2012 London Olympics in individual dressage, won another individual gold at the 20th Rio Games, took a bronze in team and individual at the Tokyo Games, and her 6 medals are tied for the most by a female British Olympian. So she's a distinguished Olympian, but she has some smear on her today as that video has surfaced. That's the word from the Olympics. A lot of pomp and circumstance, a lot of security. There is the ceremonial colors of the French flag. They go for red, white, and blue also, Albert. You know, we are red, white, and blue, but the French, they did it first, right?
Yeah, they have a couple more years under us. You know, I thought we would be the country of red, white, and blue, but they seem to be claiming it, Mark. I don't know what's going on over there.
They have rights to it more than do we, really, because of the great history that they have in France. But we have what?
We got the Stars and Stripes.
Yes, we have Stars and Stripes. You're damn right.
We have a free
Stars
economy.
and Stripes.
Yeah, we have all that other stuff. We have freedom. We have Serena Williams.
Yes, Serena Williams there. You see people lined up on the Seine. There's Serena with the Eiffel Tower in the background. And there is the grim reality of the Olympic ceremony, with rain having really greeted many of those who got out there early. And there is the security force on the Seine, which is there in full force with bomb-sniffing dogs. And there are a couple of the competitors. There's John Legend and Chrissy Teigen. This is Ariana Grande. There again with the Eiffel Tower. Kicking off things, Lady Gaga. Singing in French, I think, Albert. Quite impressive.
Yeah, I believe so. It's a star-studded event
It is a star-studded affair. There she is, the Gog, always leaving the crowd agog. Wow.
It feels objectively famous. It's not like Beijing where it's just regionally, like they're really focusing on the regions. I'm sure that they have their own Paris little twist to it, or French little twist, but it feels like it's just famous people.
Yeah, no, you're right. Maybe just the French, I like that comment. The French use poodles as security dogs. That's funny. From John Watson. She can sing in French? Calvin asks, apparently.
Would never be able to show that on here because NBC would come after us.
Yes, we cannot show 1 second of the Olympics. We can show you stills, and we'll continue to show you stills, but we cannot show you the actual Olympic Games because, as Albert says, they are watched enormously closely. There is other news. Kim is watching the Olympics for us, even though she can't be with us because of the COVID having attacked her throat. The U.S. women's national soccer team opened the group stage of the 2024 Summer Games with a 3-0 victory over Zambia. Trinity Rodman put the Americans on top with a goal in the 17th minute of the match. Mallory Swanson recorded a brace after scoring in the 24th and 25th minutes. The U.S. women's national team tied with Group B, Germany at 3 points, the Americans at 3 points, and they'll take on the Germans Sunday afternoon. The men's team plays its next match tomorrow against New Zealand. Wasn't there controversy in soccer also?
Yes, the Canadian women's soccer coach has been suspended. I think obviously terminated for this Olympics for using drones to spy on other teams. So.
That was very inappropriate.
It was inappropriate. It really was. Not cool. So that's your update on the Olympics.
Points for creativity, though. Yeah, points for creativity.
Yeah, she's using technology, and that's the way it goes, you know.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Lots of politics to follow in this show. Most of the first half of the second hour will be politics, and I'll get into it in a big, big way. And I'll even get into some politics here in a few minutes. But I wanted to touch on a little bit of the law and disorder that has graced us in the last couple of days. So let's do it in a segment we call Law and Disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law, you're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
It's a big drug bust. I don't need to tell you how the Sinaloa cartel rules Mexico. Well, the U.S. has made arrest the Mexican drug lord El Mayo. El Mayo, the son of El Chapo. They made these arrests in Texas. El Mayo Zambada, and a son of his former partner, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, arrested. They got the two in El Paso, Texas, a major coup for U.S. authorities, apparently. They say that these two arrests may actually reshape the Mexican criminal landscape because of grabbing these guys. There's El Mayo, one of the most consequential traffickers in Mexico's history, co-founded the Sinaloa cartel with El Chapo. El Chapo, of course, was extradited to the U.S. in 2017. Both, and El Chapo's serving a life sentence, of course. I mean, he hasn't been able to tunnel out of wherever he is now. Zambada and Guzman Lopez, Joaquin Guzman Lopez, the son of El Chapo, face multiple charges in the U.S. for funneling huge quantities of fentanyl and other drugs to U.S. streets. Fentanyl overdoses, as you know, have surged. They're the leading cause of death for Americans between ages of 18 and 45. Zambada is in his 70s, and Guzman Lopez in his 30s. They were detained after landing in a private plane in El Paso, Texas. Guzman lured Zambada to the U.S., according to 3 current and former U.S. officials who are familiar with the operation. And U.S. President Joe Biden just this morning heralding the arrests and vowing to continue to combat drug trafficking. U.S. authorities have made drug bosses key targets. They frequently strike plea bargain deals with them in exchange for information that lead to the capture of other high-ranking cartel figures, and that's exactly what happened here, it would seem. So big drug bust of two guys who are no good dudes. So
sayonara, sucker!
Yeah, looks like they got him. Meantime, the huge fire that continues to consume so much of the California landscape. They made an arrest. Ronnie Dean Stout was arrested on suspicion of arson, accused of starting the park fire. That's in Butte County, right, Albert?
Yeah, so it's a little close to
have
home for those who have been affected by fires in the in recent past.
It's already been a season of intense fires across the West. I don't need to tell you what's going on in Canada. We had a couple of moments where we discussed it yesterday. But this massive park fire in Northern California, again, spreading overnight, fueled by wind and dry, hot weather. And it was an act of arson. It's not contained in the least. 164,000 acres consumed. 4,400 residents under evacuation orders. And a red flag warning continues. There is the guy who they got. He was pushing a vehicle that was on fire down into a ravine, and that started this huge fire. A crazy, awful event that, again, continues to work its way into the story of an increasingly long and intense fire season in California. They got somebody in the ransomware attacks on American hospitals. Arrests have been made.
What?
Yeah. A man who carried out cyber crimes for a North Korean military intelligence agency, indicted. It's a conspiracy to hack American healthcare providers, also NASA, American military bases, and other international entities. Rim Yong-yuk, indicted by a grand jury in Kansas City. He's accused of using money launderers to cash out the illicit proceeds. He then allegedly used those funds to buy computer servers and fund more cyber attacks on defense technology and government entities around the world. So the U.S. was just part of his overall global attempt to hack. The hack on American hospitals and other healthcare providers disrupted the treatment of patients. He's accused of attacks on a total of 17 different entities in 11 states, including NASA and military bases, also defense and energy companies in China, Taiwan, and South Korea. Believe it or not, before they caught him, this guy gained access for more than 3 months to NASA's computer system. He got over 17 gigabytes of unclassified data. They were also able to gain access to computer systems for defense companies in Michigan and California. Also got into Randolph Air Force Base in Texas, Robbins Air Force Base in Georgia. North Korea uses these type of cyber crimes to get around international sanction and fund political and military ambitions, said one of the FBI guys. So this guy, essentially, they encrypt files and servers of a Kansas City hospital, and then they extort money from the hospital. In the case of the Kansas hospital, $100,000 in Bitcoin was paid to get the data back. A Colorado healthcare provider also paid up. These ransomware attacks, it's very hard to undo them. I mean, it's almost impossible to undo them, and it's almost impossible to get these guys. So this is a big grab. The FBI was able to seize online accounts used by the hacking group, along with more than $600,000 in proceeds from the ransomware attacks, which are going to be returned to the victims. And they brought multiple criminal cases related to North Korean hacking in recent years, have the FBI and the Justice Department. Harvey Weinstein, the disgraced Hollywood movie mogul. He is being treated for a myriad of health conditions, is the quote. He, of course, has been imprisoned following a sexual assault conviction. He's been hospitalized after testing positive for COVID. He's got double pneumonia, not in the best of shape. Red Lobster is underwater. Underwater, the same place the shrimp live. The shrimp that they can't afford to pay.
It never ends, Mark. Yep, it never ends.
They had to pay for the shrimp. $21 million is what they owe in shrimp costs alone. The new owners for Red Lobster are revealing Red Lobster's financial disaster. RL Purchaser LLC, an entity comprised of Red Lobster's lenders, made the initial bid for the company and let it slip that it may owe the parent company an eye-watering amount, millions, for shrimp. They filed for bankruptcy in May, days after closing 100 restaurants, and they're already talking about more closures.
There's never been anything like this.
Red Lobster has about $300 million in debt, some of which is wrapped up in the shrimp it purchased from its current owner. And they went in heavy for shrimp, but they went in too heavy. They couldn't afford the shrimp that they purchased. You guys understand that. When you got your eyes on some shrimp and you're thinking with your shrimp head instead of your real head. And that is what happens. You end up in trouble. I have good news in the world of law and disorder also. I will finish with this. I will finish this segment with good news. Octopus farming in the U.S. would be banned under a new bill in Congress. The Octopus Act would ban farming and the imports of farmed meat of octopus. It was introduced by a senator whose office heard a story about octopus. Is it octopi or octopuses? Well,
we could go with octopi. I'm sure someone smart in the chat will know.
Google it.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure whatever I say, someone will go, it's not that, dude. A controversial plan to commercially farm octopus for meat has now led to this U.S. bill that would ban octopus meat being imported. Bipartisan legislation to ban octopus farming was introduced in Congress today. Octopuses, I'm going to say, are among the most intelligent creatures in the ocean. They belong at sea, not suffering on a factory farm, said Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, one of my heroes in the Senate. The legislation comes as scientists and animal advocates express outrage over a plan by a large seafood company in Spain to farm octopuses on an unprecedented scale to harvest them for seafood. There are no current reports of plans for an industrial octopus farm in the U.S., but White House is saying that he and the bill's other co-author, Senator Lisa Murkowski, she's a Republican from Alaska, decided to act preemptively to, quote, prevent U.S. companies from participating in this brutal practice before it takes root. The new legislation is called the Octopus Act. Octopus farming is not humane. The capture of these octopuses, not humane. They are evolved creatures, as are many of the mammals that occupy the ocean. You know how I feel about this. I think all creatures feel pain, they experience fear, and the horror of farming is visited upon all creatures. That's why I have nothing to do with fish. I have nothing to do with anything living that was pulled out of the ocean or any other body of water, and I have nothing to do with eating animals of any kind or consuming animal products as best I am able. I know that's just for me. I'm not hitting anybody else over the head with it. I'm not wagging any fingers, but I am applauding Sheldon Whitehouse and Lisa Murkowski for the attempt to ban octopus farming in the U.S. Right on. And
Dictionary.com also has it. Both octopuses and octopi are acceptable plurals. So.
Wow. So I like octopuses. I think octopi sounds a little too snobby,
Yeah,
you know?
I'd say so, yeah. Highbrow.
Not that I mind sounding highbrow. I mean, but anyway, we're going to go with octopuses on this show. That'll be the official way that we pronounce the plural of octopus. That octopus movie is spectacular. So that's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
What a day. A lot of politics that we will do in the next hour. If you're just arriving, you got here just in time. We're going to get into a lot of politics with Michael Shure in the next half hour. Right now, though, let's do a little smidgen of politics with a chunk of Trump.
Open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
Well, the former President Trump meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu for the first time since departing the White House. He's saying to Biden and to Kamala Harris, I'm going to have my own meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. That's right. And my meeting is going to be even more meeting-ish than your meeting. The meeting at Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence requested by Netanyahu. It comes on the heels of the Prime Minister's address to Congress and meetings with President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House. Harris, now a presumptive Democratic nominee, as noted here, conveyed a forcefulness on civilian suffering and ending the war following her time with the Prime Minister. Again, this is an opportunity for Trump and Netanyahu to reset relations at critical moments in both the war between Israel and Hamas and also the 2024 election cycle. Trump, who often claims he was the most pro-Israel president in modern history, once touted his close personal relationship with Netanyahu. But their relationship has soured in recent years, and the former president has been reluctant to speak with him throughout this ongoing conflict. In the immediate aftermath of Hamas's attack on Israel, Trump criticized Netanyahu for his handling of the war, claiming at the time that the prime minister and the country overall were unprepared. So he was critical of Netanyahu, not for the response so much, but for the fact that you dropped your guard and let this happen to begin with. Now, Trump, it would seem, has something of a love-hate relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu. Again, the two meeting today. There is question about the Trump bullet that hit his ear. Did it really hit his ear? Was it really a bullet or was it shrapnel? So there are considerable records missing when it comes to medical records. Trump, as you know, is very guarded about his medical records being released. He's also guarded about his high school transcript being released, and he's guarded about his college transcript being released. So he's guarded. All right, he's private on medical and academic. So the absence of those medical records or any official accounts have made it a bit confusing, and they've also allowed what? They've allowed for conspiracy. If you're not going to be transparent about it, it's going to allow people to speculate on it. And so that's what's
That's
happening.
pure speculation.
That's right. So there is video and trajectory analysis that does suggest a bullet grazed the former president's ear. But there's been no official report from the Trump campaign, I should say, or from state or federal governments about what caused the wound on his right ear. And that lack of clarity has left the issue unsettled, has fueled the speculation online. But when you look at bullet trajectories, photos, and audio, it strongly does suggest that he was grazed by these first 8 bullets fired by the gunman. Thomas Crooks, the gunman, right? Wounded 2 rally-goers, killed the 3rd rally-goer. Trump himself said he was hit by a bullet. So that alone makes you think, okay, then he probably wasn't hit by a bullet. I mean, with Trump, you really can dependably go with the law of opposites, right? Best economic plan in the history of the country. That means it's the worst economic plan in the history of the country. I mean, in this case, I was definitely hit with a bullet. Probably then you weren't. Instead of speaking about it and not releasing, and instead of releasing any medical records, the campaign has posted a memo from Trump's former White House physician, Ronnie L. Jackson, who was, as I've told you before, and I'll just remind you for those who didn't hear me tell everyone before, Ronnie Jackson was hanging out at the White House. He was doling out like a, remember those ice cream trucks that used to come up and down? Maybe they still do. Ronnie Jackson handing out Adderall, Xanax. I mean, look at the reporting. Google it. Ronnie Jackson, White House Pharmaceuticals. Google it.
Google it.
And you will see the records are insane. That's the stuff we know about. Anyway, he has no problem phoning up a memo or any kind of health record that he needs to. And in this case, the Texas congressman, who's now, Ronnie Jackson is now a Texas congressman, says that Trump was struck by a bullet on his right ear. Now, he might have actually been struck by a bullet, but I'm just saying the people who are stepping forward to suggest that that's the case, they don't have, like, great dependability around them. The Secret Service, which was responsible for the security at the event, as you know, has declined comment. And the FBI said that they were examining numerous metal fragments found near the stage to determine whether a bullet or pieces of it had grazed Mr. Trump's head. A key piece of evidence is a live video feed that does capture Trump's reaction as the first 3 gunshots are fired. The crack of the bullets also are heard as they pass through by the microphone. And almost a second elapses between the first and second shots. They suggest that during that brief interim, that 1 second, Trump starts reaching toward his ear, and according to footage and audio of the event, and forensic experts who've looked at it, it was just a quick second, and Trump does flinch. His right hand already starts reaching for his right ear during that time between the first audible shot and the second audible shot. His fingers are bloodied as soon as he touches his ear. And it does, I think, suggest that something hit his ear. I mean, if it were really a shot from the bullet and the bullet hit the ear in everything that we've seen and reporting associated with that kind of weapon, that assault-style weapon, you would have thought it would have done even more damage to the ear. But that said, I mean, if it just grazed the ear, then it's possible that, it just grazed the ear, and the damage that was done was the damage that we see. A puff of debris captured in a video snippet appears to show the impact of that shot, of the first shot. Anyway, there's 3D modeling and all the rest, but the questions around Donald Trump's wound continue. And the scenario that actually brought about that wound, that continues to be a question as well. And finally, we're hearing a lot about immigration. And I wanted to mention one thing in regard to immigration. The Trumpies who come in here on our chat, and you're all welcome, and the public pronouncements that have been made about the immigration problem are in some ways accurate. I mean, we do have an immigration problem in America. You know, I've actually suggested some solutions that include actually revising the asylum provisions in this country, also bringing so many more immigration judges to bear on the southern border, some of which would have been done if they'd passed an immigration bill, but Trump put the kibosh on that. But there's something else you should know, and I think it's significant because Trump, right now, the odds are he will be the next president. And this is the kind of flawed policy that actually feeds the problem that you're trying to get rid of. When Trump was in the White House, they imposed harsh sanctions on Venezuela. They were warned, if you impose harsh sanctions on Venezuela, and there are all kinds of reasons to impose sanctions and to disapprove of what's going on in Venezuela. I mean, brutal regime, people living in poverty, extrajudicial killings. I mean, it's a horrible authoritarian regime in Venezuela. But by imposing harsh sanctions, you bring the economy in Venezuela, already troubled and addled by all of these various things that authoritarian economies oftentimes are. You bring that economy, you grind it into dust, and then you actually create a huge immigration crisis. People flee. So Venezuelans did. They fled. And the Venezuelan economy did grind to a halt. And so you saw these harsh sanctions that the Department of Homeland Security and intelligence analysts told Trump and the Trump administration would produce an immense immigration surge. You saw that very thing happen as they went into effect with those harsh sanctions. They imposed some of the harshest economic penalties in U.S. history on Venezuela. And again, documented human rights abuses, corruption by the regime of Nicolas Maduro, the sanctions fiercely defended by those who want to put the pressure on Maduro, but Maduro's still there. And all you've done is you've thrown gasoline on the fire of immigration and illegal immigration issues. So as the rap continues on immigration, and as it's a constant refrain, especially in relation to Kamala Harris, know that Trump's own strategies for how to handle the immigration crisis, ham-fisted and poor. That's your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another chunk of Trump.
Smash the like button like a boss if you would. It helps us in the algorithm of YouTube. I appreciate that. There is first positive steroid test, everyone, in the Olympics. Yes, I'm some steroid fans here. Very nice. Olympics get their first positive steroid test, and an athlete suspended. 28-year-old judo athlete from Iraq, Sajad Shen, tested positive for 2 banned substances. And you will be signing some papers on the way out, but you are no longer in the competition.
I believe Russia and Belarus, they're not included in the opening ceremonies. Both of them have been tainted by the mass sanctions for using the steroids.
Yeah, they really went in heavy with the steroids. Boy, they really put all of their chips on steroids. If you haven't yet seen it, what was the Oscar-winning movie. I think it was called Icarus, wasn't it?
Icarus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Watch Icarus. Icarus goes through the ways that the Russians integrated steroids into their sports program, and it came from the highest levels of the Russian government. And they got in Icarus the guy who was running the program for the Russians. It's an incredible movie. And what they did to sneak past the urine tests and blood tests, it is unreal. I recommend it. And it's the perfect viewing for the Olympics. So I would suggest all of my Olympics boys and girls who are fans, check out Icarus. You will like it. It's a documentary, an award-winning documentary, it's Oscar award-winning, and it details so much of that. Tell me if there are any quick comments I want to get to before I get to Florida. Ivan Drago? No. How about a Rocky reference, everybody? I love that. Thank you, Mama, to Three Boys. Very good. Yes, you get nothing. That's right. The guys with the steroids, they get nothing. Where's the you get nothing drop, Albert? Do you have it?
I have one of those. I have.
You get nothing.
Yeah, you've got it. Okay, we've got it. What else can I?
Oh, we have a super chat from Harry Magden.
Come on, Harry. What's going on, Harry Magden? Big shout out.
Big shout out.
I'm done with the grifter in chief. Time for a martini. I'm headed to the Red Jack. How about the Red Jack Saloon in San Francisco? Still love you. Thank you, Harry, for the $5 super chat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I do recommend for those who are still imbibing a visit to the Red Jack. But even if you're not still imbibing, they have great mocktails also. You know, the mocktails, very popular with the young people. And Mark's been nice on KFI. He's on from 1 to 4. Nice levity, kind of political, but not as political as this YouTube show. That is true, Mars. It is not as political. This is my political Jones. But there, I'm not as political on KFI and on iHeartRadio. It is true. It's a little lighter, but it's, you know, I got to say, we're ramping up to a very consequential presidential election. I feel like I can't really park all the politics, you know. So we try to give you a little bit of a balance here. But to be honest, I feel an obligation to talk about some of the things that we talk about. And I'm glad that we talk about them. So, but you're right. A little less on the... can we have an Olympics that permits performance-enhancing drugs, says Champagne Wishes? It would be great to see the full potential of the human body.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
I mean, Champagne, you should get that organized, you know. The first steroid Olympics. I love that. You know, there's another movie I can recommend to you. I really recommend Icarus, okay? So if you only have room for one movie, it's really great about Olympic cheating and about the Russian program, and they get the top guys, I say, and you'll be astounded by the ways that they defeated the steroid testing. But that said, there's another movie. It's called Bigger, Stronger, Faster. And Champagne, you should see that movie. Bigger, Stronger, Faster. And I had the director on my old podcast. The Bigger, Stronger, Faster suggestion is that we all, in a way, take performance-enhancing drugs. It's all where you draw the line. You can draw the line at coffee. You can draw the line at there's certain kinds of chocolates that will jack you up. Adderall. In the movie, they actually feature a first violinist, I think she was, in the New York Philharmonic, and she takes Adderall before a big performance. Now, is that performance-enhancing? Most definitely. But would you say she shouldn't be allowed to play the violin with the Philharmonic because she's taken Adderall? Of course not. So you realize that where we draw the line on steroids and performance enhancing is really one of those super gray areas. And I like that movie, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, for that reason. So I recommend that for you, Champagne. I know you were kidding around, but I am just kidding. Give me coffee, Coachella Valley coffee. Yeah. There it is. Bigger, stronger, faster. We should get the director back on the show. But he's done a bunch of stuff since then. It's kind of interesting, too. He did this is a digression, but let me just digress quickly. He did a movie, the director of Bigger, Stronger, Faster, about the opioid epidemic in America. And halfway through the movie, what does he do? Halfway through the movie, he confesses to actually being an opioid addict himself while he's doing the movie. It wasn't his plan to be doing that confession, but he makes the confession halfway through, and it's pretty wild. But, so, again, Icarus, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and if you're really into it, then you can go for that opioid film. All right, that's the latest. Thank you for your comments. You can leave them. And by the way, after hours, please leave comments. Happy to look at them, and do look at all comments that are left on our channel. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to tell you that Friday Fabulous Florida is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyard. Tenuta. What a great place. You simply call the fine people at Tenuta, 925-699-4576, or email rich@tenutavineyard.com for tasting room reservations or for all shipping to make an order. And when you call them, use the discount phrase. It's the phrase that pays, everybody.
Smash it with your iron rod.
It's the phrase that pays. Smash it with your iron rod. Use the phrase that pays and get 10% off. And if you order a case of wine and you use the phrase that pays, you say smash it with your iron rod. You can order it over the phone. Again, the number is 925-699-4576. You get 20% off.
Smash it with your iron rod.
So you've got those things going for you. Love our friends at Tenuta. They've been with us since the start of the show, and we wish them the very best and a good weekend. Order some of the Why Are You Yelling Red or the Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson White? Those are our proprietary blends. Now, Albert, it is time. Let's do it. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
There's a heavy helping of weird in this first story, and I'll tell you one of the reasons. Because the victim in this story, the victim of a punching attack, is a bartender. Now, that in itself, you might say, well, you know, bartenders do get into some scrapes once in a while with patrons who are overserved. But the bartender is 97 years old.
What?
Yeah. A 24-year-old woman arrested. She punched a 97-year-old beloved bartender in the face. This during an altercation at Hurricane Tina's bar in Fort Myers, Florida. Betty Kai was bartending, minding her own business, when Sarah Powell, the 24-year-old, walked into the bar, claiming to be the owner's sister. Kai said, I know the owner very well, and I know you're not her sister. But said that the owner would be coming in later. Then she went over and sat at one of the video games. But after a few moments, this is the woman, the 24-year-old, she came back to the bar and began ordering drinks from the how old is she again? 97. 97-year-old. Yep. According to the arrest report, the 97-year-old said that she wasn't going to serve her any alcohol because she was already intoxicated, so she was refused service. When she was denied service, the 24-year-old became very agitated and aggressive. The 24-year-old began threatening the 97-year-old bartender and approached the entrance of the bar. When the entrance was blocked by the 97-year-old bartender so that she wasn't getting behind the bar, the 24-year-old grabbed her forearm, tried to push her away, and As she pulled away, the 97-year-old, the 24-year-old punched her in the face. After she was hit, multiple people in the bar restrained the 24-year-old, escorted her out of the bar, and locked the doors. Well, the bartender suffered multiple cuts to her right forearm. Her cheek was reddened and slightly swollen. But she's 97. And look at her. God, I hope I look that good when I'm 97. I'll be decaying in the ground, so it'll be hard for me to look that good at 97, but it really is amazing. Well, the woman who began this whole dust-up, arrested, faces several charges, including battery on a person over 65 years or older. Good for them for having an enhancement. If you hit a 97-year-old bartender, you ought to be, in my judgment, treated incredibly harshly. Meantime, on the other side of Florida, a man on a golf cart accused of drunkenly fleeing from deputies at the Villages, everybody. More lawlessness at the Villages. They're all jacked up on God knows what. They've got the dope. They've got the alcohol. They've got the Viagra. The Villages is crazy. This guy drunkenly riding a golf cart illegally, arrested after taking a deputy on a wild chase. It was 1 a.m. A deputy saw the red golf cart traveling in the middle of the roadway, taking up both lanes illegally. He attempted to conduct a traffic stop, but the man didn't stop. For a short time, the golf cart driver, who was not a senior citizen, 21-year-old Christopher Esdale, illegally drove on and off roadways as deputies followed him with sirens blazing, lights activated. At one point, the deputy said he pulled his car out in front of Esdale, who then drove into the grass in an attempt to evade law enforcement. This guy was committed to getting away from the cops in a golf cart. He had watery, glassy eyes, slightly slurred speech, and a very strong odor of an alcoholic beverage coming from his breath. And who can't respect that? They saw a bottle of whiskey appear to have fallen from Esdale's golf cart. They arrested Esdale, and he is relaxing in custody. A Florida man stole from Walmart, and when asked why he stole, he said, "I don't know why. That was stupid of me." No. He has found himself behind bars. He took several items from Walmart, hid them inside a trash can. And when the authorities booked him, he said he didn't know why he did it. Eric Slaughter is his last name is Slaughter. Maybe an unfortunate name for an arrestee. He's 38 years old, and on the Mark Thompson Show booking scale meter, I'm going to give him a solid 7. Again, 7.5 maybe even. Anything, Albert? 7
around there. He already has the prison buzz cut, and he's got the tattoos showing a little bit, like a 7.5 maybe. 7.
Yeah. 7.5. A lot of people giving him something around a 6. The toughest judge is Uncle Russ. He gives him 3.5. Solid 6, says San Jose Lola. Kind of a mysterious 6. Yeah, he does have an air of mystery about him. He's kind of got that, bad boy thing going.
And, well, we don't like to use any other factors, but the last name's very cool. Very wrestling.
That's
very
true.
Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah.
The last name is Slaughter. Deputies responded to the store. They met with the store detective there, who said that Slaughter brought a plastic trash can, also had another trash can that had other items inside that he didn't pay for. Inside the second trash can was a solar light valued at $30, a pair of $25 shoes. It's always interesting to see what people steal. And he had a pair of $25 shoes that had a switch tag for a 74-cent fishing dauber. Anyway, in total, deputies added up $80 worth of items that were taken from the Walmart without being paid for. He apologized. He said it was stupid of me. And
My
when they
bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when they asked him why he took the items without paying, he said, I don't know. No, that's, if nothing else, it's honest. A man accused of intentionally exposing himself at Marco Island's Marriott pool is now in custody. He was flashing his genitals, everyone, while drunk. I hope you're just the
It was wrong,
drunk.
it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Yes, thank you. It was a Tubin-esque moment. Although this guy really intended to flash them, I think Tubin was not intentional in his flashing. Deputies identified the suspect as Alberto Hernandez, 51. If you can't show your genitals at 51, when can you show them? He was speaking very loudly, flailing his hands while arguing with deputies. And on the booking photo meter, I'm going to give him, again, it's somewhere in the 6 neighborhood, you know? What do you think, Albert?
I'd agree. He has he did the uppering his chin. He has that angle
exactly.
to kind of
A little defiant, maybe?
Yeah.
Francine gives him an 8. Wow.
His mouth kind of he's chewing on some, I don't know.
Not regret. He's not chewing on regret.
Not chewing.
3 adults staying at the hotel told deputies that Hernandez had grabbed their phones and walked away after they had wrapped them in a towel and left them at their table. So he was creating other problems. And while deputies were sorting all of this out, 2 women came up and told them that while they were in the hot tub with 7 other women, Hernandez came over and exposed his genitals and began playing with himself. Well, this is a guy who really, there were bystanders in the area and children. He was arrested. I also want to say, being a cop in Florida, I understand you do get into some pretty tough spots, but it seems like there's a lot of this. People are drunk, they're on a golf cart, they're exposing themselves at the pool. Just saying, these are situations that if I were a cop and I knew that that's all I was really going to be dealing with, it would be much easier.
You could have added the Gators too, though, Mark.
That's true. Yeah, Gators add
They're really very creative with their weapons, the machetes, the swords. I love.
You're right. All right. Yeah, I don't think I'm cop material in Florida. I'm not.
But maybe you could also wield a sword. That'd be great.
Well, there's that too. I mean, I think I'll need some training, but thank you. A Florida man accused of stealing from a Dallas funeral home, maybe a serial criminal. That's right. He's a Florida man who's been stealing from funeral homes. He may have committed these same crimes of stealing from funeral homes across the Southeast. He's been stealing mortuary stretchers from funeral home transport vans. This is a very specific kind of ripoff. These are the medical stretchers that funeral homes or medical examiners' offices use in the transport of remains. In early May, a stretcher was stolen out of a vehicle, and on the same night, someone smashed the window of a van at a funeral care spot in Georgia. That's why they think the whole thing might be going on. This is kind of
your iron rod.
Yeah, he smashed that window and grabbed that stretcher. Investigators linked both crimes to the same man, Michael Christopher Johnson, 56 years old, out of Florida. There he is. And again, I'm going to give him a 6. You know, nothing special.
Yeah, middle of the road. He does have the classic three named criminal. He's a
3 named criminal, and I'd say he could be, he could be the guy next door, the troubled guy next door. A new stretcher can cost $1,500 or more. Johnson tried to sell the stretcher that he stole for $1,000. He tried to sell it back to the funeral homes, some of them, from which he'd stolen the stretchers. So that is really a very...
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Actually, it's a really bad idea. Multiple charges filed against him. And this, a man killed after the Florida roommates shoot at each other with what they thought were unloaded guns.
What?
That's right. A man is killed after the roommates shoot at each other with what they thought were unloaded guns. It would have to happen in Florida, and it did. Just before 5 o'clock in the evening, the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office got the call. 49th Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. Kevin Bishop, 50, on the floor with a gunshot wound to the chest. His roommate, 57, also in the home. You think, this is the stuff that like 20-somethings do when they get drunk.
Yeah, like young men, just boys being boys.
Yeah, you don't think that guys in their 50s are pulling this crap. The two men were drinking alcohol when Bishop, again, the 50-year-old, showed his roommates several of his firearms, which he claimed were unloaded.
I'd be
at one
willing
point,
to bet
the men,
my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
At one point, the men both pointed firearms at themselves and each other. Detectives said that when Bishop grabbed a Glock 21 from his roommate, the roommate released his fingers from the gun and a bullet went into Bishop's chest. Bishop was taken to a nearby hospital where he later died. And finally, that was finally, wasn't it?
That was our last story. Yep.
Yes, we finished with the drunk roommates who shoot each other. I like it. I thought we really stuck the landing. Nice job, Albert. We have to pick a favorite. We don't want to pick a favorite, but we must. It's required in the bylaws of the show, so let me review for you. And please do leave in comments what you feel is your favorite. The Florida man on the, first of all, the 97-year-old, the bartender, yeah. I mean, she is a 97-year-old bartender. She is punched by a 24-year-old who was already overserved and denied additional drinks. A Florida man on a golf cart accused of drunkenly fleeing from deputies in the Villages. A Florida man stealing from Walmart. When asked why he did it, he said, "I don't know. It was stupid of me." A man accused of intentionally exposing himself at Marco Island's Marriott pool. A Florida man accused of stealing from funeral homes, a serial criminal who may be affecting all of the Southeast. And a man killed after he and his roommate shoot at each other with what they thought were unloaded weapons. Again, don't want to pick a favorite, must pick a favorite. Albert, what is your favorite? First, tell me which one is the favorite in the chat, please.
The Villages golf cart DUI. That would have been my choice if it were an actual Villages member, like an elder or one of our...
you disqualified it for you because it was a 21-year-old?
Yeah, it's just it would have been the choice. But I like I titled it Roommates Unloaded. It's boys being
Very
boys.
good.
They're a bunch of 50-year-olds, and I mean, I'd feel a little worse about it happening if it weren't the situation, but they were aiming at each other, and that's what happens.
Yeah. This is tough. For me, it's the pure insanity of a 97-year-old bartender and the 24-year-old drunkie who comes in and demands more alcohol. It feels very Florida to me, but the two guys are arguing with weapons that they claimed were unloaded. They're drunk. It's between those two. I'm going with the 97-year-old bartender getting punched. I'm sorry. That's just my choice. There are no right answers.
Even without the punch, that's still a Florida story. There's a 97-year-old who's a bartender. Like, that's pretty Florida to me.
That's Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
I have Michael Shure standing by. We'll get into politics, and as we do, we'll talk about the latest showdown between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, the remarks of the president who gave those sort of, I want to say, it was almost like a campaign speech without being a campaign speech, the Biden speech, as he steps back from the political race. I know the voracious appetite of the news cycle is such that seems like it was a long time ago, but it really wasn't. I mean, Kamala Harris has only been the presumptive nominee for a couple of days, but we've really gone at warp speed to this remarkable place where Kamala Harris has done one other thing, which is massive. She's dominated the news cycle for 6 cycles, 6 days. This is a news cycle that was dominated by Trump and by Biden being feeble and infirm. Those were the narratives that dominated the news cycle day after day after day when it came to the presidential race. Enter Kamala Harris. It's a whole new game. Now, that's the news cycle. That doesn't mean that it's a whole new game from the standpoint of the Electoral College. If this were the popular vote, you'd feel, if we're a popular vote country, you'd feel, all right, there's really a shot here. I mean, Kamala Harris could easily win the popular vote now, but it's not. It's the Electoral College, this screwed up, bizarre holdover from slavery America, which we still labor under for any number of reasons associated with the dominance of the GOP. So, sadly, I don't know how much of that spills over into the Electoral College question, but we will talk to Michael Shure about it, and that and a lot more as he joins. And speak of the great one, he is here, a man who has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. How about it for Michael Shure?
Hi, everyone.
I am well. I am getting this already. Donald the Maine Coon says, Mark, you are a killjoy. It is true. I was just talking about the fact, Michael, that Kamala Harris has done something in the few days that she's been the presumptive nominee, and that is she's dominated the news cycle. Prior to the pulling back of Biden in the presidential race, you had a news cycle dominated by his infirmity and by whatever Donald Trump was saying on the stump and essentially firing various Molotov cocktails rhetorically at him. So
well, you also had an assassination attempt in a Republican convention. So I mean, it was a very, very full and quick news cycle.
Yeah, thank you. And I was just speaking before you got here about the fact that we just have the news cycle has an appetite that's just insane, warp speed kind of thing. So yes, the Republican National Convention seems so long ago, and it actually wasn't. So certainly the Biden speech, let's start with that. That wasn't that long ago. I was saying, felt like almost a campaign speech followed by I'm not running. In other words, went through a lot of his achievements during his administration, and then he announces that he's stepping back.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like a State of the Union. Here's where we are. Here's what we've done. Here's what's still left. And but he didn't. If you look back at Johnson in '68. Johnson broke news. We knew that Biden wasn't going to run. So it wasn't as if there was this earth-shattering moment where, oh, my God, the president has said he's not going to stand for election. Whereas with Johnson, it was presumed that he was going to be on the ticket. And he said, not only am I not going to run, seek the presidency, if nominated, I will not serve. I will not, I will not stand. So I think that there's a little bit of difference. Also, Joe Biden's, coming off of COVID. He's an older man. And so the force that you might expect with someone else doing that, but nobody does it. And I don't think you can, underplay both how badly he didn't want to do this. And that makes the fact that he did it even more impressive to me.
Yeah. I mean, all the way up until the 11th hour.
Yeah, but I want to take a Mark Thompson victory lap. I don't take them very often, but for months now, or a month-ish, I've been saying that the Kamala Harris, when people were saying, oh, we don't want Kamala, the Kamala Harris you're going to get is going to be different because the enthusiasm will be there because there will then be energy behind the Democratic ticket, whoever it is. So whoever that was would not have been their old polls. And I think we're seeing that come to fruition here. And
I agree. I absolutely agree. She's surprisingly good so far.
Yeah, I mean, so far, and she's going to have some bad news cycles, right? But I mean, what happened in the past several days could not have gone better. That doesn't mean, and it absolutely will not stay this good. But this, if you're going to say that the torch pass and the opening of the campaign could not have gone better.
I'm going to address this now just because it annoys me. Randy, the continual rants about the Electoral College get old. Yeah, it's an antiquated system, but constitutionally based. So let's figure out how to win with that system. It's not going to change. Hey, Randy, you know what gets old? Hearing from you about how the Electoral College ranting gets old. That's what gets old. It is not just an antiquated system. It's a racist system. Go read about the Electoral College and its origins. It comes out of the slave state. No, not let's figure out how to win within that system. No, let's figure out how to get rid of that system. And there are ways. Google that too. Sorry to be annoyed, but I'm sick of you jumping on me every time I jump on the Electoral College. And you're lucky I don't yellow card you. Now.
But in Randy's defense, because he came without a lawyer today, there is the time to do this is next March, right? Next summer. Not right now, right? I mean, because this is the playing field for now, right? And the knife to the gunfight thing, whatever you want to say, the Electoral College needs to be won now, whatever its roots. And there are some good roots to it, and there are certainly some bad roots to it.
No,
and
there are no good roots to it.
Well, there are.
No,
I mean, we can have a debate about that. You and I have actually. I think it's got to go. I think the Electoral College has got to go. But I don't think you talk about that in July, 3 months, 4 months before an election.
I wasn't actually talking about it going, and I'd be happy to have the debate another time, which I think you appropriately suggest should be held at another time. What I was saying is that the Electoral College is the game you are playing. I was actually saying what Randy was saying, which is
I wasn't here. I didn't hear you say.
I know, no, that's why I'm explaining it. I'm simply saying that my reference was it was a side reference saying, don't get too excited about Kamala Harris dominating the news cycle as she is, because were this just the popular vote, she might really have a shot, and Democrats probably would carry it. I mean, again, if you had to handicap it right now, real shot, but it's not the popular vote. It's the Electoral College, and it's an awful system, but it's the system we work in. That was literally the limit of what I was saying about the Electoral College. I didn't go into a big thing about how it has to. So, but every time I mention it, Randy jumps on me for mentioning it, and I appreciate that you defend him, and I also appreciate this, which is an aloha from Kauai, which chills me out. So thank you for the super
big
chat.
Shout
but
out.
You're right, Michael. I'd love to have that conversation, and we should do it
It's
another
not a debate.
time.
We're on the same side of it. The only difference we have is that part of its origins were about the agrarian economy, and we don't live in an agrarian economy anymore. So it does, that has been rendered obsolete. I think it would be a dull debate because we're on the same side.
So let's talk about what's happening on the Republican side of things, and then we'll get to the running mate, and we'll get and those choices. On the Republican side, I was saying, I think you weren't here, Michael, so you might have missed this, and I don't know that you agree with me, but I felt the choice of J.D. Vance was Trump really feeling it. He felt like, I got this. Now I'm going to get this young guy on board. He was being pushed by Peter Thiel. J.D. Vance, I think, has his whole life, professional life, really in the hands of Peter Thiel, who's delivered him a lot.
And David Sachs, Silicon Valley group out there.
Very good. At Sachs, and then his kids. I mean, Little Don Jr. and Eric, I think, were pushing as well. So now give me the pros and cons of a J.D. Vance.
Well, I think that the one piece that is just missing so far from the conversation here is that J.D. Vance, there's this feeling in MAGA world, and MAGA world is really Trump, his immediate acolytes, and his kids, that when Trump is off the stage, whether he's a president again or he's not, there's no one to carry that torch. There's no one to keep MAGA going. Then it would revert back to sort of your standard fare Republicans. But in J.D. Vance, they saw somebody who had the potential to make MAGA last longer. And so I think that was a very big part of it. And that's what probably swayed Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not drawn to big personalities or even biographies that outshine his in some ways. It's why I thought Doug Burgum was going to be his nominee, the governor of North Dakota. He's a fallen line guy. He's a MAGA guy. It's what Mike Pence was as vice president, and all the way. I mean, he was also a constitutionalist and someone who agreed with the law, which for which people are grateful. But I think Vance was too risky for this play. But I do, in the end, stick to my guns that this race will be about Donald Trump and about Kamala Harris, and not J.D. Vance. I think the distraction that Vance will bring is going to be occasional, and I just don't think debilitating. He's not Sarah Palin-like in being completely distracting from the nominee.
So as this maybe less than important emphasis is placed upon number 2 on the ticket, you turn to Kamala Harris, and she has some choices as well. She'll pick someone you'd think who would enhance or balance the ticket in some way, right? Politically.
Yeah, I think so. If people, Kamala Harris, people forget, has been elected to the vice presidency, elected to the U.S. Senate, elected to the attorney general's office in the biggest state population-wise in the country. So she's been out there before the voters before, and she has run offices both as the vice president, which doesn't really have a lot of clout, but certainly as the attorney general in California. So I think executive experience, she probably had not as much as a governor, but more so than your run-of-the-mill senator would have. And the vice presidency is proximate to the presidency. And Doug Emhoff, her husband, has become very close with President Biden. That friendship has made it so that Kamala Harris has been more involved really in this calendar year with the presidency than she had been before, and than many vice presidents get to be. And so that's also an advantage that she has. She probably will want a governor. I think that what she wants is no risk. And she doesn't want to have this J.D. Vance moment that the Republicans are having right now. And so I think people who have stood for election more than once, perhaps, people that are popular in their states, and people who balance out the ticket in a way that they don't make any mistakes, right? Or there's nothing in their past. I think I think a vice president can't help you, but it can only harm you.
It's also worth noting that the vetting process for vice president and president nominations is withering. It makes the vetting process for governor and for some other legislative positions look like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, right, Michael Shure?
Yeah, that's true. It is. I think that's a great point, Mark. I don't know that it's permanently withered, but I do think that it has to be taken seriously, because what a vice presidential nominee can do is hurt you. Like I just said, I don't know how much they can help you. I don't know of any of the names being bandied about, who helps. Does Gretchen Whitmer help you? Yeah, she's won in a very pro-union state, and she's popular there. Is it worth the risk of having the first ticket in American history with 2 women on it? Maybe, but I think people are more careful than that, for better or worse. Tim Walz, also in the governor of Minnesota, also in a pro-union state, been reelected, but was in Congress, is very popular, is very off the cuff, is very in your face. Do you want that kind of personality? Maybe that shows some toughness on your ticket that Trump people will be wielding, and maybe you want somebody who can hit back at Donald Trump, but maybe you want to go a little safer and get a Southern governor like Roy Cooper or Andy Beshear. There are reasons to recommend all these people. Mark Kelly, the senator, Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary. They all come with some risks. I just think that you can't be too careful. A lot of people think Tim Kaine was a terrible pick for Hillary Clinton. People who overthink this thing. Hillary Clinton didn't lose because Tim Kaine was her running mate, right? And so I just don't think it matters as much as people say, but it matters because it's interesting.
So the way you frame it is such an interesting and important thing to consider, because it's as though on one level it doesn't matter, on another level it could be critically important if there is something revealed, like a Sergeant Shriver kind of thing, like a Eagleton kind of thing from ancient history, Right,
and if we had found out, look, if John Edwards' story was known before or during that campaign, it would have been devastating to Kerry, who ultimately lost anyway, but it would have been news cycles throughout that campaign. Edwards would have had to drop, a new candidate would have come on, it would have distracted from the race. Again, Kerry lost anyway, but it's still, those are the things you want to avoid.
I thought I saw a question for you before I got into my stuff, but now I don't know. If you find it, Albert or Kim, you can put it up there as at one of those Ask Michael Shure type things. But let me ask Michael Shure about the degree to which the campaign proceeds in this way. I always feel as though you want to make this, particularly with this particular configuration of a candidate in Donald Trump, you want to make this about him. You somehow want to make this campaign about Trump, and you want to put him on the defensive. I understand that there's a lot of talk about you have to offer the American people something and you have to offer them a future. I think that's all true. But I think from the standpoint of news cycle and news coverage and messaging and swinging people over, it's reminding people of certain things about Trump and making him defend it, as opposed to trying to defend the incoming stuff from Trump land. Do you agree with that assessment?
I do. I think that you got to be careful not to do it too much. People want to hear what you're about. They want to hear a vision. They want to hear an intangible. With Reagan, it was Morning in America. With Clinton, it was a town called Hope. Barack, it was Yes, We Can, that sort of thing. I do think that there has to be a positive message. And I think that was something that really debilitated President Biden. I think President Biden was really focused on Trump and how can we elect this guy? Democracy's on the line. Democracy on the line is a great, it's a great campaign message. But it's intangible. We don't know what that means precisely, but we do know what it means to build a bridge in our backyard. We do know what it means to give X number of jobs and to see inflation come down. We do know what it means to see, home prices come down and crime go down. So you have to talk about what you will accomplish, want to accomplish, and what you have accomplished. And I think for Harris, there will come a time, maybe, after the summer, where she tries to separate herself a little bit from the Biden administration, but Democrats are pleased with what they got from him. But I think she has to set her own course as her own woman in politics, and will do that in a way that won't be drastic, but certainly, talk about those things, all the while talking about Trump. What's great about Trump is he brings a lot of attention to himself already. You don't have to do all that work. There are very few people who want to vote in the next election who don't know who Donald Trump is. So many of them don't know who Kamala Harris is, and her running mate will be. And I think that's an important part of what they need to do.
Michael, did you hear rumors of Trumpster dumping J.D. Vance for Haley? Is the question from Julie.
I've heard I've heard rumors of J.D. Vance leaving the ticket. I don't know that it would be Haley. As far as I know, Haley, I don't think would want the job. But a lot of these people change their colors very quickly. I don't see the help to the Republican ticket by dropping Vance. There's something in that says to me, well, now all of a sudden I'm afraid of Kamala Harris. And Donald Trump is not someone who likes to look weak. And I think that there would be a division. One thing about Milwaukee is the Republicans, I felt, were very unified there. And I don't think they want to mess with their unity right now. It's a lot to dump a vice presidential candidate. But if they do it, they've got to do it quickly.
And I don't know how you do it. Like, on what grounds do you do it? You know what I mean? It would be a weird. But
it would be. I mean, that's another good point, Mark. Just because I think that you've got to have more of a reason than, oh wait, people aren't loving him. They could find anything. They could point to the fact that he said, childless cat ladies or whatever. But I don't know. I don't see it happening. If it would happen, my only take is that it should happen pretty soon.
There was a question about the RNC. Put it back up there, please. Underdog asks, hey, Michael, what do you think of Teamster leader Sean O'Brien's keynote speech at the RNC convention in Milwaukee?
Yeah, I think it was the most, without question, I'll say it's in the top 3 most important and interesting speeches I've ever seen at a convention. And I think that it was progressive at a Republican convention. It was brave because he was in the room with a lot of people who fought to keep him off that stage, and left when he went on the stage, and left as he was speaking, because he excoriated the corporate boardrooms. He said, "This is we need to hold people in power accountable, and this country was built on workers." And he didn't endorse Donald Trump. He said he's a tough son of a bitch for what happened in Pennsylvania, but he didn't endorse him. And I think, I just think it was an incredibly progressive speech, and of all places, a Republican convention. It'll be interesting to see. I think Sean Fain, the head of the UAW, is going to be speaking in Chicago to the Democrats. It'll be interesting to see if they invite O'Brien as well.
Yeah, it's so odd because Biden and the Democrats have been so staunchly behind unions and union work, and it's a remarkable thing to see him at that convention. But as you say, he didn't endorse the agenda of the GOP.
He didn't. He actually criticized it, and he didn't endear himself to a lot of people in that room. I think it was an important and interesting speech, and I think it was a wake-up call to some people there, but some people really did. I mean, I saw it. They just left. They didn't want, and I spoke to people before and after the speech who said they fought that not happen there. I mean, this is not the party of unions and labor unions, and the problem that they have is that a lot of those union voters have stopped being a monolith, and they've left and gone to Donald Trump because of the cult of Trump, because of MAGA, because of there's a place for a middle-aged white union member in MAGA that was appealing.
This on the debate. The Trump campaign confirming it is retreating from Kamala Harris debate for now. The campaign communications director blaming the continued political chaos surrounding crooked Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. The moment was taken by Kamala Harris to say, what happened to any time, any place? So the idea somehow they're blaming it on, they do it with all the crooked Joe Biden and Barack Hussein Obama, and they wrap it in all of that. But he's stepping back from that commitment to debate. Now, but I'll let you speak in a second, of course, but I just wanted to throw one other thing in, Michael, because I say something that I think is not that popular, and that is I don't see Kamala Harris wiping the floor with Donald Trump. I mean, on a debate stage, she's going to own him. She's going to crush him. I don't necessarily see that. I see the debate stage as a place where he's fairly comfortable. I understand it bullies his way through and he makes stuff up, but it's up to his opponent to flag those things that he makes up, and also to counter the bullying, which she can probably do strategically. But I think you can play it to a draw or maybe to a slight win. I don't see it as a wiping the stage with anybody kind of situation.
Yeah, I don't know what defines wiping the stage unless one of the people makes a huge mistake. And, Gerald Ford debated Jimmy Carter, and it was the first set of debates since the Kennedy-Nixon debates in 1976. And Ford said something that was totally wrong and made him seem out of touch. And it was a turning point in that campaign. I don't see that mattering as much anymore, because Donald Trump could say something that is wrong. Ford said that there is no Soviet presence or domination in Poland, or in Eastern Europe, which was patently false. And it was a mistake by Ford. Trump would say it and not care if it's a mistake or care if it's flawed and not true. And they would no one would come after him the way they did with Ford. But what Kamala Harris is suited to do that President Biden is not, is that she can call out those lies in real time. She is familiar enough, sharp enough, and on top of those, the facts that Donald Trump plays with enough to make it seem like, I don't know about wiping the floor. I don't know who the last person to wipe a floor in a debate was, but I do think that she would do quite well against him in a debate in pointing out what wasn't true. And will that matter? I don't know. But I think his demeanor against Harris won't be as embraced if it's similar to how he debated Hillary Clinton, because of the feelings toward Clinton at that time by many people.
Let me help you with the last time a guy was wiping the stage with somebody else in a debate.
June. It was June.
Yeah, I was going to say it was the last one.
Yeah, right.
Biden got owned. It was if it had been a fight, they would have stopped it.
But Biden didn't.
He's self-owned.
Trump didn't wipe the floor with Biden. Biden scored an own goal, and Biden, undid himself. So I think there is a distinction there.
Yes, you're right.
And we'd never seen anything like that either, and that changed possibly the course of American history. But I'm just talking about in a debate where what's being debated matters.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. So as we move on from here, the timetable for selection of the number 2 on the ticket, do you think she'll wait until the convention?
No, I think she'll do it before. The convention starts on the 19th of August. I would imagine the first week of August is when we'll hear who her running mate is.
Well, I'm always grateful for our time together. I thank you I know you've been running back and forth. You were at the convention, and I'm still worried about even Harris being able to be on state's ballot, says Paul. Michael Steele said it could be a legal issue per state.
I think that's probably being overplayed, but it needs to be paid attention to. And it seems like they're going to work that out. I know they'll work it out. How they work it out, I don't know yet. But
They're also, I would say, I would ask you whether this is indeed the case, but I think it is, that those states that she wouldn't be allowed on or there'd be contesting of her appearance on the ballot are probably states that she's not going to win anyway.
That doesn't matter. You want to give every one of your voters the chance to vote. A state like Ohio, for example, it's a population center. It has 3 big cities, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. And then their B cities are also big when you look at Canton and Akron and Toledo.
Well, is that the state that she's not going to be allowed on?
That's one of the states.
I see, okay.
You want as many votes as you can. You want to be able to say you have a mandate, or at the end of the night, you want to be able to say we won the popular vote. It's important for people to be part of the process. So they'll figure out how to. I have every confidence that they'll be on the ballot wherever they need to be on the ballot.
Michael, so insightful per usual, says Julie. How about that, Michael? Very, very nice. A lot of love for Michael Shure.
I'll take it.
Wow. There's also Michael Shure. Thank you. Okay. Well, I could go with a few minutes of loving on Michael Shure.
I'm going to pour a drink if that's okay.
Yeah, that really is quite special. Thank you, Michael Shure. All right. So we'll talk next week, next Friday.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah. All right.
Happy Olympics. Michael Shure, everybody. Yeah. Right on. Pretty great.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, Albert, all of our crazies are here except for Kim. Kim is backstage. If those just joining us, she's been hit by the COVID.
Oh, girl, baby,
it's
girl.
Pretty rough.
Don't even play.
Don't play with that COVID, baby. That can get tough. I actually saw some good news on COVID today. It's essentially Vivian saying aloha from Hawaii. I did recognize it before, but I'll recognize it again. A big shout out to Vivian Alshawa. Yeah, a $10 super chat. And No Contendo with a $2 super chat. Dr. Eric Foner's lecture on the Electoral College. Yeah, thank you.
Big shout out.
Well, again, I don't mean to get on the. I literally was just mentioning it as an aside because you need to win the Electoral College. That was all I was doing, and it turns into a big thing. We have a short right now about the Electoral College and its origins, okay? So it's only 60 seconds long. Won't take long. Go to our channel. Watch the 60-second presentation. If you care more about it, you want to know more, there's plenty of information on it, and you can even find the broader, deeper conversation I had with the guest that they took the short from. Wes Theory, $5 super sticker. What up, Wes?
Big shout out.
Big shout out. I'm loving it. Yes, Kim, feel better soon, my darling. Albert, I'll do a sweeper and try to get a hold of Michael Snyder, who I think is approaching the green room. And
probably one of your longer sweepers to give you a little extra time. We can do a double sweeper if we have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. Do I have a long sweeper? I think I do. Let's try this and see how it works, all right? Smash the like button before I do. Smash the like button. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for the sharing of the show.
Iron rod.
Thank you for supporting the show. Those who are new Patreon and PayPal members, you can join via Patreon and PayPal under this video and under any video. There are links to the Patreon and PayPal communities. This is how we stay on the air with the super stickers, super chats, and PayPal and Patreon. I mean, honestly, it's like an NPR PBS model. Like if you get something out of the show, please do support it in a little bit. You can support it with a little bit of support, and your little bit added to other people's little bit adds a community of support that really can make a difference. So I have quick news from Kim, and it's related to a strike. And
what?
Yes. More than 2,500 SAG-AFTRA video game actors are hitting the picket lines. A strike that officially began at 12:01 this morning after contract talks broke down between the union and the video game industry. Actors want protections from being replaced by artificial intelligence as well as new fee structures. The interactive media agreement expired in November of 2022. Meanwhile, the movie that I think Albert may see this weekend, Deadpool and Wolverine, off to a great start at the box office. Right, Albert? You're going to head there. Right.
I'm for sure going to watch that. I've been watching the old Deadpool movies leading up to it, so I'm very excited.
Made $38.5 million in the opening start, and that's the best ever for an R-rated film. It's projected to make between $160 and a $175 million take. That number may end up near or above $200 million. Well, it's nice to have money. That's the latest in the world of entertainment. Smash that like button, Mark Thompson
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man! Pull up those pants!
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Call me a liar. Know what you call him? You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar. Your pants are on fire!
Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir? It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret now?
Doesn't anybody better weed?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected. And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
Right on, everybody. Great to have everyone here. It is our Friday show. We've had a lot of fun all week, much going on in the world of politics. We've covered it, I think, in a lot of different ways. I mentioned before, I'll just add this one thing as we note that our dear Kim has been hit by COVID. She finally got hit by COVID. I mean, she's avoided COVID all this time. She finally got hit. And they say the risk of developing long COVID, this is what I was mentioning before, and I just think it's worth mentioning again. And that is really a problem. I mean, punishing symptoms that linger, it sucks. the risk has decreased since the start of the pandemic. This is according to a new study, and the drop particularly evident among those who are vaccinated, according to the study. It doesn't mean the risk of developing long COVID has vanished, they say, but given the rise in new infections, particularly during periods like this, when data indicate transmission is elevated, even a lower rate of prevalence is a ding word, means many Americans risk developing symptoms that can last months or years after their initial infection clears. So go out and get your COVID, kids, because the long COVID risk is lower. That's the message. And then this from our darling Kim. The San Diego Zoo is asking visitors not to show gorilla videos on cell phones. In other words, if you're at the zoo, showing a gorilla your cell phone and showing them a video, it's apparently becoming a problem at zoos across the country, including the world-famous San Diego Zoo. The Wall Street Journal is saying people are getting gorillas addicted to watching videos on phones and iPads through the glass enclosures.
What?
Gorillas and humans share 98% of their DNA, and just like humans, they can have too much screen time, altering their behavior. The zoo says they do not condone and strongly discourage playing the gorilla videos. I'll tell you, they got to do more than that. They've got to make it more than just discourage it. Am I right, Michael? They have to be tough on this. I mean, it has to be, you have to lay down the law.
Good day, sir.
Exactly.
You need to control the screen time for these gorillas. Yeah, it's like your kids and the gorillas. Screen time down.
We need to control the screen time.
You definitely don't want to ever show them King Kong, ever.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
All right, now, on Fridays, we like to look into the world of movies and streaming and stuff to watch on television. He comes and goes on a rainbow. He's the great culture blaster, Michael Snyder. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Mark. Kim, I wish you were a little more present. I know you're there behind the scenes. Please get better quickly. Albert, always a pleasure. Our Giants are seemingly in free fall. You know, I travel a lot. I mean, I am the coastal commuter. I have a place in San Francisco and I have a place in L.A. It sounds like I'm kind of a fancy schmancy rich kid,
seems like
but
you live large.
I'm not. But I do manage to maintain 2 households, and I do a lot of traveling. So, you know, on occasion you need a place to stay. But after all these rumors about J.D. Vance, I am very reluctant to ever couch surf again.
Oh, get it. All right.
You know, unless the couch is saran wrapped, or I am. You know how it is.
God. Oh.
So even though I'm in Los Angeles at the moment, I am cognizant of things going on in San Francisco, and I do want to bring out a little plug-ola here, a little plug.
Mm-hmm.
Baby Snufkin was the proto-punk new wave band fronted by my pal, guitarist, singer, and songwriter Scroat. That's the name he goes by. You know, it's a single name like Madonna or Dolly or whatever. He's best known these days for developing the Celebrating David Bowie bands and playing on tour with the likes of Adrian Belew, Sting, Todd Rundgren, etc. So Scroat's been a busy man. But spawned in San Francisco, Baby Snufkin made some noise locally, opened for a variety of heavyweight rock acts like Primus and No Doubt across the U.S. and Europe. And then they just stopped playing 25 years ago as the members moved on to other things. But circumstances apparently led Baby Snufkin to record some new tracks, and the band is now set to play the city of San Francisco for the first time in 25 years. It's a special 2 p.m. afternoon show at the Kilowatt in the Mission tomorrow, Saturday, July 27th, and you can get info and tickets at babysnufkin.com.
Wow, good stuff.
Yeah, I just
jump on that Snufkin thing.
Scroat is the man. I've known him for a long time. Incredibly talented, and he runs with the big boys, if you will.
You are so great. I am. Why am I seeing
turn down Michael?
Turn down
Michael.
I'm glad we're talking. Hold on a second, Albert. Stay where you are.
The technology.
It's just a little too hot. I don't want to kill our listeners' ears.
Michael, you're a little hot. And I've got to turn you down.
It's the weather here in Los Angeles, Mark. Let's get honest about it.
Is that better, Albert?
That's a lot better. Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's move on. We got to talk
wait a
about
minute. I've got to talk to Albert about something.
Oh, yeah, by all means.
Albert, excuse me. Did you tweet today or not?
About that, yeah. Mhm.
Albert, thank you. You didn't, did you?
I did not. No, I was getting your Olympics stills for the beginning of the show.
You're interrupting the flow about this because Albert is otherwise occupied. Meanwhile, you've got like the big guns on a Friday.
This is a
You've
classic Mark Thompson time waster.
It's not a time waster. He needs to do that.
You got Michael Shure.
I know how he couldn't tweet about it. All right, whatever. Okay, I can't. I'm just going to write. I can't believe Albert didn't tweet about this.
And I got to also point out that this is the day that the biggest of the summer 2024 blockbusters opens, and here we are shilly-shallying, dilly-dallying.
You're right. I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay,
And I shan't shilly-shally any longer.
I'd like to. So when it comes to those blockbusters, Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine is speaking of apes, the 2-ton mutant gorilla in the multiplex. You can't get away from this thing. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have been all over television. They've done a lot of publicity on this thing. And, I want to put a little context on this. As some of you may know, and I'll try to make it brief and clear, Disney acquired 20th Century Fox, turned that studio into 20th Century Studios, and in the acquisition, Marvel, who had contracted many characters before becoming the megalith studio they are now, to other studios, including Fox and Sony. So Sony got Spider-Man. They sold the rights to X-Men, Fantastic Four, Deadpool, Wolverine, etc. to Fox. But with the acquisition of Fox, Marvel, with its massive saga, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, could fold these characters in and benefit from them, and also kind of bring together some of their intellectual property, which they weren't able to do prior to this. So there we have it. I will start out by saying...
So they did that, you're saying? They folded the two together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Having gotten control of Wolverine, the X-Men, Deadpool, Fantastic Four, they said, let's do Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, mercenary with a mouth, as they like to call him, and get him embroiled in our big saga, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So... this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, is splashy and it's frenetic and it's overflowing with cartoon-level violence and gore. It's unapologetically vulgar. It's R-rated, which is a first for Disney and Marvel. So there's dirty words and references to sexual acts and what have you. And it is metatextually clever. You may remember from Deadpool 1 or Deadpool 2, if you saw them, that one of the characteristics of this lunatic mercenary, besides being scarred and wearing a mask and what have you, is that he talks to the audience. He breaks the fourth wall, which gives him the opportunity to comment on anything, the genre, what's going on around him in the movie, the nature of the film, which is kind of cool. So this movie is laugh out loud funny if you're familiar with many of the Marvel films and a few TV shows that preceded it, because he can now reference all that stuff.
I see. So you have to sort of know what he's referencing to really get the humor in it.
It's the third of these films. It's a superhero action comedy buddy picture teaming Reynolds as Deadpool, a.k.a. Wade Wilson. We've described him before, the wisecracking mercenary, with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, who has gone by the names Logan, Patch, and James Howlett. He is the tormented, invulnerable, claw-wielding, and usually infuriated mutant member of the X-Men, who is the most famous X-Man thanks to the films. And over the course of 2 hours, this movie is often stunning in execution and impact. It's invigorating in its surprises for fans. And by its last moments, it's a bit exhausting. I mean, it comes at you like a freight train. Of course, it would seem like a no-brainer to bring Deadpool and Wolverine together, since both characters are now controlled by Marvel Studios. And so, they did it. In a lot of ways, this is a celebration of Marvel's 20th Century Fox-produced movies, by the way, since they're now legally able to fold the IP into what they're doing. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been sputtering lately, so this was thought of as kind of a booster shot in some ways as well, because of the popularity of both characters. Plot-wise, there are issues. Wolverine died at the end of the very good and very moving James Mangold-directed 2017 film Logan. So there's a problem making this team-up happen. But this is a comic book movie, Mark.
Well, but even in comic books, they explain Superman comes back to life or something.
In some way, they generally
do they? Do they?
Sometimes dead is dead, but not in comic books.
Citizen Swain says violent beyond reason.
Right.
This movie.
I told her not to join me for the screening, and she came anyway. I promised she wouldn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it. Okay, so Marvel's Time Variance Agency, or TVA, is cleaning up divergent timelines. And because the death of the Wolverine from the Fox movies is undermining Deadpool's timeline, a guy named Mr. Paradox, who was a rogue TVA middle management dude, played in perfectly unctuous, suited fashion by Matthew McFadden of Succession. He's hell-bent on destroying the timeline, killing all of Deadpool's comrades, including his estranged girlfriend, Vanessa, played by Marina Baccarin, his snarky roommate Blind Al, played by Leslie Uggams, a few minor superheroes, etc. So Deadpool's
Leslie Uggams is in it?
She is. She plays Blind Al, Deadpool's roommate, and has in the other two Deadpool movies that were released via Fox. So anyway, Deadpool's desperate. So he decides to find a live version of Wolverine in an alternate universe and bring him back to save the timeline.
All right, so they
risk.
explain how.
Yeah, it's in universe explanations.
All right.
So eventually, the superpowered odd couple ends up in the Void, which is a wasteland where they encounter a villain played by Emma Corrin of The Crown, and this villain is related to a renowned X-Man. And there are also a slew of familiar allies and foes, which is the sort of thing that charges up the fans. Oh, who's going to pop up here? This is going to be exciting. Reynolds and his screenwriting collaborators, including the director Sean Levy, who, by the way, did Night at the Museum, and with Reynolds, Free Guy, they're very aware of the Marvel movies, of all of them, the Fox ones. And so, because they're aware of that and the comic book lore, they're willing to address the studio takeover, its fallout, the histories of the characters. Are happy to poke fun at everybody, whether they're a main character or a cameo, as well as the actors in the cast, their other roles, and even their actual lives, aspirations, and foibles. So you get all of this inside baseball stuff, which is pretty hilarious. And there are cameos galore. Some are minor, some are more than cameos.
John wants to know, does Batman show up?
It's a different universe. Look, no spoilers, but there were cheers at the screening I attended, except from Heather. And it's all a little sloppier, haphazard in the plotting. But what do you expect from such a melange with multiverse hijinks, alternate versions of heroes in alternate timelines, and two essentially invulnerable, insta-healing heroes slicing and stabbing one another, and of course they're mortal enemies in some particularly sensitive locations. Yeah, come for the fight scenes, stay for the bromance. I will just wrap up by saying it's like a superhero 48 hours, with Jackman's Wolverine doing Nick Nolte and Reynolds' Deadpool doing Eddie Murphy. And the inside Hollywood banter is straight out of here's a reference, Bob Hope, Bing Crosby road picture.
Wow.
The jokes are aplenty. It was a blast.
Michael, plot is not important, says Luis, is just a vehicle to bring Wolverine and Deadpool together on screen at the same time.
And for that reason...
Thought it was as if John Wick were a comedy buddy quest movie in the multiverse.
Luis, you are absolutely right. By the way, regarding physical damage, these guys are more durable than Daffy Duck or Wile E. Coyote. I'm telling you, honestly.
They take a licking and keep on ticking.
They do indeed.
Metatextual was a word that you used, and I will ding it. I wish I could ding it 100 times. I've never heard it before, and it's quite strong.
I have to say, in the Void, where our dynamic doofuses end up at one point, it features like former heroes from Marvel and whatever, and villains, and also landmarks like a gigantic 20th Century Fox logo, which is buried in the shifting sands, because that company no longer exists as it was.
That's great.
There are more Easter eggs than, I don't know, a Pentecost party on the White House lawn.
Tom says that review was longer than the movie.
You are correct. All right. It's
Michael Snyder getting razzed by Tom.
It's a fangasm. Haters and wimps need not bother. it's in theaters.
Okay. What else you have for us?
I'll try to get a little more down to earth because, I hear the whining and complaining about the marble and what
it's
have you.
right, exactly.
Okay, so shot in digital-wise, economical fashion last summer in the culturally diverse community of Fremont, California, Dee Dee takes a hard look at a nerdy Taiwanese-American kid's kind of helter-skelter, pitfall-strewn adolescence during the summer of 2008, when MySpace was fading but still kind of a chat-heavy online destination for some. Facebook was really gathering steam as a social media hub, and a burgeoning YouTube, our platform of choice, had achieved traction as a place for aspiring content creators to go public with their experiments. Now, Dee Dee, written and directed by Fremont native Sean Wang, is clearly semi-autobiographical, offering an unvarnished take on a would-be skateboarder and videographer, 13-year-old Chris Wang. See, they share last names. And when the angst-ridden Chris isn't bickering with his older sister, he's contemptuous of his traditional Taiwanese mother and grandmother, who call they call him by the nickname Dee Dee. And they've been raising him in the absence of his father, the family breadwinner who was working in Taiwan. So Chris's home life may be a battleground, but he has a summer agenda. He wants to be accepted by the cool skateboarders in the hood, shooting video of them in action in hopes of getting acclaim for his clips. If Chris has to leave behind a few friends, fellow freaks and geeks who razz him most of the time to raise his status, he's kind of cool with that. I mean, they call him Wang Wang, and I don't think that's in a flattering way. Okay, so Chris also wants to convince the girl he's been crushing on to go out with him. None of this will be easy to make happen for the kid, but all of it rings true as it painfully plays out on screen. A young actor named Isaac Wang, man, there are so many Wangs involved in this project. He plays Chris in uncomfortably real fashion. He's like a hormonal bundle of pubescent turmoil, this guy. Wow. And the esteemed Joan Chen plays his mother, Chung Sing, in truly heartbreaking fashion, embodying the harried woman and aspiring painter as she's trying to acclimate to American life. She wants to support her college-bound daughter and deal with constant criticisms from grandma, and at the same time wrangle her youngest, Dee Dee. Now, I don't know if Dee Dee the movie is going to prove to be as consequential for Sean Wang as another feature debut, Fruitvale Station, happened to be for Wang's fellow Bay Area filmmaker Ryan Coogler. I mean, Coogler went on to make Black Panther for Marvel and the Rocky sequel Creed. It may be presumptuous to say that Wang will have the same career trajectory as Coogler, but there is no doubt that Dee Dee is a beautifully made, emotionally satisfying coming-of-age movie with considerable cultural savvy, and that it's very much worth seeking out and watching. It is in select theaters today in New York and Los Angeles and opens in San Francisco next Friday. Dee Dee.
Dee Dee. So, does he grow up and become a wealthy, successful guy, or we don't see that?
We don't see that. We just see the kid as
struggling.
As he's confronting adolescence.
Oh, that's sad.
No, there's nothing sad about it.
It's a coming of age. Will I be okay with this? I can't take any more melancholy, man.
Oh, well, here's a cure for melancholy right now. Okay. Starve Acre is the latest example of UK folk horror cinema, which is kind of becoming an active subgenre of films lately. And this time it's set in a rural area of the British Isles during the 1970s. In other words, Mark, there are no computers or cell phones, which might be the scariest thing about the movie. Okay, I kid. And speaking of kids, our two leads, a youngish husband and wife played by Matt Smith from House of the Dragon, The Crown, and Doctor Who, and Morfydd Clark, star of the great film Saint Maud, and also she's the lead elf Galadriel in Amazon's Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power series. They have one kid, and when the movie starts, it's clear that he is a problem child. The family had moved from the city to a house in the country where Richard, the husband, spent a rather difficult childhood, but he and wife Juliet agreed that it might be a good place to raise son Owen. It turns out to be a bit of a miscalculation, since beneath the fields adjacent to Richard and Juliet's house, something very old and mystical might be lurking, and this entity may or may not have the family's best interest at heart. And that family includes Juliet's sister, Harry, who comes to stay for a bit when things get wonky in the aftermath of a tragedy. So writer-director Daniel Koketajlo isn't reinventing the wheel or reinventing the Wicker Man, for that matter, with Starve Acre, but he does have a good command of mise-en-scène, an eye for the forbidding countryside, and actors to truly deliver the discomfort. Smith and Clark are in tune with the material, as is Erin Richards from The Crown and Gotham as Harry, the sister, and Sean Gilder is quite good as an elderly gardener prone to spinning unsettling tales of local supernatural lore. If you're starving for a bit of that British horror, Starve Acre should quell your hunger for a little time. It's in select theaters and available today for streaming on demand.
Oh, it is available for streaming. All right, what else do you have? I think you have one more for us.
Yeah, I have one more film, and we'll zip right through that one. And this might be the one that you have the most interest in. We'll wrap up with a brief endorsement of an unlikely World War II thriller from Norway about a little-known aspect of the war effort, the civilian merchant ships that carried military supplies to the Allies through enemy waters while being threatened by German fighter planes and subs. The Arctic Convoy is set in 1942 when a 35-ship mission to bring vital items for the war effort from an Icelandic outpost to forces in Murmansk, Russia, is imperiled after their military escort is recalled. So they're out there floating around without any kind of protection. So on the lead ship, the captain insists on proceeding to Murmansk, while the first mate wants to head back to Iceland and relative safety. As the ships scatter to avoid the attacking German forces, we stick with the lead vessel on the chilled Arctic seas, where the crew will have to survive the elements as well as the enemy. The story is not familiar to me, and it kept my interest. And it was helped by excellent technical effects and art direction. The cast is rough and ready. And with their efforts, front and center director Henrik Martin Dalsbakken keeps the Arctic Convoy afloat. It's mostly in Norwegian with English subtitles. It's in select theaters and available for streaming on demand today.
Wow. Man, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Quickly, a TV recommendation?
Sure, I got one. The Decameron on Netflix. It's an 8-episode comedy reimagining of Boccaccio's randy 14th century tale of a group of people who flee the bubonic plague that's ravaging Florence by hiding out in a remote, comfy villa where they entertain one another by telling stories. So this version of the Decameron is pretty decent social satire, as members of the different classes of the time, nobles and their servants, have to interact in the safety zone of the estate while the disease, is beyond the walls. I noticed a New York Times reviewer referred to it as the White Lotus meets the Black Death. I cannot do any better than that, other than to say the cast is ideal and includes skilled comic performers Tony Hale of Veep, and Saoirse Monica Jackson of Derry Girls, as well as Zosha Mamet of Girls, the Lena Dunham show, and the use of both modern and classical needle drops on the soundtrack, which can sometimes be jarring, is in keeping with kind of the wacky revisionist nature of this adaptation. 2 episodes in, I am amused and will continue to watch.
I think it might be the tonic that I need to address my melancholia. The Decameron, is that how they say?
Yes, the Decameron, that's it.
Yeah. And that is where?
Netflix. Do you have Netflix for
I
streaming?
do. I have Netflix. Thank you.
Get on board, bro.
Looking forward to that. The Arctic Convoy was the other feature that was reviewed by Michael, the Norwegian offering. He liked it. It's a historical offering, is it not?
It's a look into a real circumstance and a real situation that went down in 1942.
But again, one that was, is not very well known, might just be a way to put it.
Civilians bringing supplies by water to Allied forces, and they're endangering themselves by doing it.
Starve Acre is the UK folk horror cinema offering. Michael liked it.
I did.
And it's available to stream video on demand and also in select theaters. Dee Dee shot in Fremont, California. The coming-of-age story of a nerdy Vietnamese teenager. It speaks to me, Michael, and I'm going to see that But I can only see it in select theaters. Am I right?
Yes, and he's Taiwanese. Get your eases together.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's fine.
That won't affect my enthusiasm to see the film.
No, it's actually my favorite film of the week, although obviously like I said earlier, I fangasmed at Wolverine and Deadpool.
Yeah, you really, well, that's right in your thing.
Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Deadpool. It was good fun for me. A nightmare for our friend Heather.
Deadpool and Wolverine. Wolverine was dead, but not in another universe. If you go through the right wormhole and you know.
Yeah. The TVA has these devices that let you go from universe to universe.
Whatever,
handy,
dude.
They're handy.
Whatever.
I know it's all hand wavium.
Anyway, Deadpool and Wolverine in theaters. Very cool. You can read Michael in the Voice of San Francisco. Check out his column on any number of things. He obviously does the movie and entertainment reviews, but beyond that, he writes and opines on any number of things. TheVoiceSF.org is where you can find it. TheVoiceSF.org. He's here with us on Fridays. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Michael, farewell, my friend.
See you, buddy, and come on, Giants. Oh, wait. Go Niners. That's how desperate I am right now.
Go Niners. Right on, right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, what do we have to do? What do we have to do, Albert? Can I mention the great people at Coachella Valley Coffee who make everything happen for us? They are really one of our only sponsors. We've got Tenuta sponsors on Friday, but Coachella's with us every day, and I really do appreciate that. It is the best coffee on earth, and I'll tell you what we are drinking in the Thompson household now is the cold brew, and it is great. So you order it, they'll send you 2 bags of it's in a baggy form. It's super simple. You'll put water in a pitcher. You'll put the bag in it's like a large tea bag, right? You know what cold brew is and how to make it. You put it in there and you let it steep for 19 hours, I think is the optimal amount. And then the taste experience is so special. It's not just like cold coffee. It is something else completely. Go to CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, order some, and make sure you get 10% off by using the discount code MARK-T at checkout. Check them out, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Again, MARK-T for 10% off.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'd like to stay all day. I am... Mars said, feeble attempt to summon good health for Kim to have the after party show. Mars is sending us $5 in a super
Big
chat.
shout out.
I do hope Kim feels better. She really, I was ready to say, hey, just go relax. And she said, no, I can still do a lot of stuff backstage. I can, help with visuals and this sort of thing. I wish she would have helped to remind Albert to tweet. But look, I don't mean to focus on the negative. We've had a lot.
Albert, thank you.
We've had a lot of good stuff on this
Lady Gaga was playing at the opening ceremony.
That is true. Albert was hustling a lot of those. Yeah, we can't ask Albert to do more than one thing at a time. That is that is the rule. So, everybody have a great weekend, and I am going to see you next week.
Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Kim will be back on Monday in a big way.
Bye-bye.
Until then, bye-bye.